Hey, Stacey David here, and this is the Tales of a Gearhead podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals since 1919. That's right, over 100 years building tools and still going strong. If you need tools, check them out. You won't be disappointed. All right, let's get rolling. Well, I suppose everybody has heard the news about the passing of Ken Block. This was a tough one for me because I knew Ken. We weren't real close friends. We were acquaintances. We saw each other out at SEMA from time to time, but I knew a lot of the guys at the Hoonigan organization, all great people, just a great deal. I've just, been a fan of Ken and watched what he's done for a long time. Man, it was a huge shot to the automotive industry. For those of you that may not know about Ken or realize just the extent of his influence, let me just talk through it a little bit. Ken came up through the drifting world. He was a race car driver and did a lot of things like that as well. But it was his Hoonigan series with the Gymkhana thing that you can Google and watch right now. After the podcast. But do yourself a favor and watch some of those if you haven't seen them. It is absolutely amazing stuff. And what Ken kind of did is he's the one that kind of created where he would take the car out and take it through buildings and down streets and do all this crazy stuff. And you may think, well, you see that all the time. Well, you see it all the time now because of Ken. Ken was one of those guys that comes along every once in a while, like in the music industry or the automotive industry or the different industries, like a Jimi Hendrix, that completely changed the way people look at something, and it forever kind of changes that. And Ken was like that. He didn't invent the car, obviously. He didn't invent drifting. And there's a lot of great drivers and stuff out there, but what Ken did is he put his own style on it and did it in such a way that it absolutely captured everybody. Now, like I said, with the Gymkhana series that's out there, even though Ken is gone, people will go back and watch those for years to come and be influenced on them, and it will be like, well, this is how Ken Block did it. He was so innovative. And you might be thinking, well, okay, so how innovative was he? Well, let me talk to you about just kind of the way that the automotive industry had changed and what has happened. When I first started doing trucks, the only type of automotive stuff you saw on television was a car-to-car, like on Car and Driver, where you'd see the car drive past, and then they might do a burnout. And it was always kind of lame and, just kind of some smoking of tires. When I started doing trucks, we put the very first donut on the air. And it was highly controversial. I did it with the COPPERHEAD truck when we did the payoff on that. I wanted to get some of that sideways drifting stuff on the air because it looks great in slow motion and it really shows the suspension working. It's just a great shot. And oh man, everybody told me I couldn't do it. And then after we shot it, they're like, we can't put that on the air. It's too unsafe and it doesn't... people can't do that, and you'll encourage people to go out and kill themselves and all that stuff. Well, fortunately, I was able to prevail, and we got that out on the air, and it started to open the door to that kind of thing. And now enter some of the people like Ken Block that took that to a whole nother level where they built complete little scenarios around the car going through things, obstacles and that kind of thing. And it became so popular that the movie producers started to put that type of stuff into the movies. Now, keep in mind, back in the day, your chase scenes, think of the old Bullet chase scene. It's pretty much straightforward. It's, guys chasing each other, very linear. One behind the other, getting alongside, bashing each other and doing that kind of junk. Well, now think of a chase scene out of Fast and Furious. With all of the drifting and everything, that's where that started. And Ken was at the forefront of that. And it's because of the popularity of what he was doing that people wanted to see that in movies. So, if you enjoyed the movie Baby Driver, well, you can thank Ken Block for that. Now, I'm not saying that he did the stunts in that movie. I'm not saying that there weren't some great stuntmen that did that. Obviously, there were. I don't think Ken was involved in that movie at all. But it's his influence that makes people want to see that in a movie, which, of course, indirectly makes him partially responsible for the popularity of that. Same with the John Wick series. Same with any of the chase scenes that you see now in movies where you got cars drifting sideways and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, you can thank Ken Block for that influence that makes us want to see cars going sideways now. And when you look at it, you might go, well, that's, who really cares? What kind of difference does it really make? Well, think back when you were a kid, when you saw American Graffiti or Bullet or whatever influenced you. Corvette Summer, whatever it was that you watched. It was the sight of that car going sideways or drag racing or doing whatever it did that made you want to get out and get in one. And that turns into car people because you want to get out there and you want to experience that car that way. That's the influence of it, and that's the influence of Ken Block. All right, today we have a special guest with us. It's Riley from Riley's Rebuilds. Now, if you don't know anything about Riley builds carburetors with 4 of her friends, who are all females as well, and they have a really cool thing and a great story, and she's a real car girl. So we got a few minutes to sit down with her. So Riley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
First thing everybody wants to know is, how the heck did you get into this? How is a girl who is still in high school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Rebuilding carburetors?
I wanted to buy my first car, or I wanted my dad to buy my first car, and he told me no.
Okay, typical dad.
Very hard no, yes. And he said, go into the garage, because I wasn't old enough for a job.
Yeah.
He told me, go into the garage, find something that you can refurbish or just sell, like clothing, something. Was looking on the shelves. He had pulled a carburetor off his older project.
Okay.
It was just sitting like in the middle. It was like a shiny treasure chest.
Yes. Now, did you know what a carburetor was?
To be honest, I didn't know what a carburetor did till like 2 years into me working on them. He'd be trying to explain. I'd be like,
just do it. Just build it. Okay, so you picked this carburetor.
Yes, and then I asked him how much it makes, and he kind of gave me a rough estimate. I was like, that's it. Yep. I want to make some bread. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so the first time you pulled one apart, what'd you think? I mean, pieces went everywhere. And metering jets and.
His was nicely cleaned because he had soda blasted it already.
Oh, really?
So his wasn't a real jump scare. The first couple were the jump scare that I got from all the junkyards and everything. We have 3 categories. We have the burnt carburetors. Yes. We have the like gooky, grimy ones. Yeah. And then we have like completely disheveled, not even working, rusted.
But you go through all of them now. So you build them for people. And then, okay, so a rebuilt carburetor from Riley's Rebuilds, what does it cost? Say if it's an Edelbrock 4-barrel.
So if you are sending us your 4-barrel carburetor, it is $145. That includes shipping and any parts that needs to be replaced and the kit.
That's a deal.
Yes, and it should get back to you in 14 days or less.
Wow, so you guys are quick.
Yes.
So do you have a full assembly line? You've got how many girls working for you?
Well, we have 3 normally in the garage because Elaine, who's our 4th, is our videographer and editor. So it is the 4 of us, including me, in the garage. Normally we work 2 days a week, so that's Tuesdays and Fridays for like 3 hours. Amelia and Katie disassemble, so they break down the entire carburetor, get everything ready for Dagny. Dagny soda blasts, she's really quick at it too. And I'm moving everybody along. And then Katie and Amelia rebuild after Dagny is done.
Now, I noticed that there's no male names here, so there's no guys working in there.
No.
Now, why is that?
Well, I was very strict at the beginning. Like, the girls want to bring their boyfriends in and stuff. And I like the idea of no drama. No.
You're very smart. What, are you just 17?
Yes.
You're very smart for somebody 17. That brings in a dynamic that sometimes you don't want to mess with.
Yes.
Especially at that age.
Yes. And the girls they're just my best friends. And by the time kind of the business started progressing, I was also doing competitive soccer. Okay. So I was going 2 hours to my club. And then I go to a very elite school that is very work heavy. And I'm very big on grades, so I was really focused on that. So I was never seeing any of my friends. Yeah. And they were really complaining about it. Like, we never get to see you. And before all of this kind of happened, I tore my shoulder labrum.
Okay.
So I was out for 6 months, and I was like hanging out with them, doing everything. So it was a complete like jump from seeing them every day to never seeing them. So they were really like, "We miss you, come back." And so I invited them in.
You have all the money.
Yes, that too.
We don't have any pizza. You're not here.
Exactly. The girls were making $200 for 24 hours worth of work when they can come into the garage and do 6 hours and make $300 worth of work. So they were very big and adamant on coming in.
Ah, yes. So now, once you're finished with this, as you go into college, what is the future for you? Are you going to stay in the automotive world? Are you
Definitely.
rebuilding carburetors? What do you think? Or is this just something you're doing now?
Well, I definitely want to bring it into college. I'm committed to Connecticut College for soccer.
Okay.
So that's going to be a big part of my life. I don't think I'm going to have time for an 8-hour job. And carburetors is just so much fun. I love the whole world of the auto.
And do you have any trouble selling them? I mean, do they go quick?
Yes, they go so quick. We actually put up 12 maybe a week ago, and they were all gone in the first 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, because we have a line of people that are like, "Can I have this? Can I have that?"
Oh, yeah. That's great.
But yes, hopefully I'll bring it to college with me. Hopefully I'll get some of the soccer girls in, or maybe some of the engineering, because that's where I'm planning and majoring. And I definitely want to keep up all the partnerships and like the whole idea of Riley's rebuilds. And hopefully we progress into other things. I've been looking at shops in Connecticut to bring cars up there, work on cars. I'm not like, I don't know everything about cars. I'm really open about it because it was really scary when I was younger because I could not name a single car on the road. And so I don't know everything about cars, and that's a big part of Riley's rebuild. Is my dad is not just teaching us how to build carburetors, but how to fix drum brakes and how to pinstripe and weld and how to work on a motor and how to pull a tire off and do your oil changes. So just learning step by step, and we're trying to find a shop by the college that I'm going to go to that I can bring my car in and hopefully work for them or figure something out.
Now, you're obviously a car girl, so if you could have any car, what would it be? Any car or truck. Here it is. Price doesn't matter. What is your dream car or truck?
I really like the old Porsches with the flip light. Any RX-7s, any like 70s Broncos, I really like.
When you say old Porsches, you're talking about like from the 70s or 80s?
Yeah, definitely older. I'm a very old car girl. Any muscle cars I'm really interested in. 66 Fairlane was my top for a really long time, or an El Camino or a Camaro. We were looking at all of those for a bit. Those were my tops. Anything with like a Fox body back or anything like that, like the old Mustangs, the Fox body Mustangs. I really like those too.
Nice. Well, it's been great to have you on here. We wish you the best of luck. And man, anytime you're in town, drop by. We'd love to have you back on.
Definitely.
You know, when gearheads get together, it isn't long until the subject of tools comes up. Because tools are what make all this possible. You guys know that. And car guys and girls are passionate about tools. What's good and what is bad. And that is one thing that I have to give Cornwell a lot of credit for. They'll listen to what the pros are saying about their tools and constantly make changes to build them better. That's why they have new screwdriver handles and ratchets and all kinds of other stuff coming out all the time. It's not just to get your money, which a lot of people think. It's the never-ending quest to build a better tool. Because Cornwell knows that if you're not working and getting paid, they're not getting paid. That's why they're America's oldest tool company and still going strong. Check them out. All right, I have a few questions here. The first one comes from Rich. And Rich says, hey, Stacey, do you know if there's someone out there that makes a front and rear suspension kit for the 73 and up Mercury Cougar, similar to what you installed on the V8 Interceptor? I know you get a lot of emails, so I appreciate any help and guidance. Well, Rich, that's a good question, man. Obviously, the V8 Interceptor was a 67 Cougar, the 67 through 70, what they call the first gens. 67, 68, obviously a little different body style. And they kept getting fatter and fatter as they got up. But generally, the classic Cougars are considered to be the 67 through 70s. By 73, they were very chubby. they were starting to become more like an LTD or a Thunderbird than a Cougar. Now, for your question, I don't know anybody that has a kit for that right offhand. However, I got a couple places you can check. Check with TCI. That's total cost involved. They're the ones that I got the suspension kit for the V8 Interceptor. Now, they may not have the exact one. I know they didn't back when I did that car, but that's been a few years ago. And, you know, as people move forward into the 70s and 80s and start modifying and resto-modding those cars as well, they're starting to come up with kits. So TCI might have something. Heights might have something. Ride Tech might have something. Keep in mind that your suspension on that 73 Cougar is going to be probably sharing some components with some of the bigger Fords. So maybe the Granada, maybe the LTD, maybe the Thunderbird. There's going to be some cross-pollination of parts there. So somebody like a Ride Tech might be able to help you there. There's Fat Man Fabrications. These are guys that I've named so far that are kind of in the hot rod, street rod world. Then there will be some places out there, you can just Google them, that actually specialize in Mustang stuff or Cougar parts. And they will probably have something. I'm sure somebody is making something now, or there would be something that you could modify, kind of like I'm doing on the van. A lot of square body parts work on that van, but you just have to kind of hunt them out and just kind of talk with these guys that are doing suspension. You should be able to find something. That'd be a cool car. There's enough guys doing those now that I think it would be a really cool project. And I'd like to see it done. So good luck to you, Rich. Send in some pictures, man. Let us know how it's going. All right, the next question comes from Christy. And Christy says, hey, when are you going to be shipping out the Copperhead Hot Wheels? Well, you opened up a can full of worms there, Christy. First of all, they're not Hot Wheels. I have to be careful on that, because Hot Wheels is not doing them. They're Copperhead die casts. But yeah, you got to be careful saying the name on it, because, you know, I got into trouble with that years ago. A lot of people haven't heard this story, I hope. My very first show that I did on trucks, I was doing rocker panels on a 66 Chevy pickup. I was cutting them out and welding some new ones in. And I was talking about, I was digging away this big, thick pile of Bondo that was on there, or plastic body filler. Thus brings up the problem. And I was talking about it. I said, listen, guys, don't do Bondo bad like this. You know, if you're going to do it right, you know, this thing. But I'm saying the word Bondo, which is a brand name. Yeah, and I didn't think anything about it because, you know, I grew up in body shops and working in shops, and that's what you called any plastic body filler was Bondo. Just like any cola was a Coke. Hey, I'm thirsty. I want to go get a Coke. You know, that's how it was. You know, if you threw a plastic disc through the air, it was called a Frisbee. It didn't matter who made it or what the other name was on it. It was just a Frisbee. Well, I learned real quick that you can't do that on national television because the CEO of Bondo got hold of my boss. And he was very nice about it. He says, hey, you know, I really like this new truck show and all this other stuff. He says, but your guy, the Stacey guy, why does he have such a problem with our product? And he was like, why is he bad-mouthing Bondo so much? And Joe had come to me and he mentioned it. And I said, I didn't know. I didn't know. So that was a lesson to me. So I have to be careful when you pop brand names like that, you have to be really careful. Yeah, and I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was talking about just using plastic body filler. But it would come across, you know, as, you know, Bondo itself is bad as a brand, which was not the case. So anyway, back to your question on the Copperhead die cast. We are still waiting for those to come out. They are caught in the shipping woes and the supply chain issues that we've all been facing. They were ordered 6 months ago. They should have been in by Christmas. Obviously, they weren't. I'm not sure when they're going to be in, but they're supposed to be in any day. And that's the thing. All of a sudden, they'll show up and there'll be boxes on the loading dock. But as soon as we get them out, we'll we'll let you know. We'll put them out on the social media and the website and everything, so everybody can see them. It's funny about Copperhead. You know, I've done several die casts of other vehicles before that one, and everybody just keeps asking for die casts of Copperhead, so we've decided to do it. I actually had a guy show up at a show one time with a Copperhead die cast with my picture on it. And I'm like, okay, where did you get that? He goes, well, I had it made. He said, there's a place you can go and they'll make, die casts of your car. And I'm like, well, that's not your car. And he goes, I know, I just always liked it and I just wanted to make one. And he wasn't selling them, which was good because we would have had to make him stop that. But I said, man, you can't do that. He had taken my picture like off the website and printed it on there. And I was like, listen, man, that's flattering, but you can't do that. You just, that's illegal. You can't do that. So anyway, he was cool about it. That was just a confirmation that we probably need to come out with them. So they will be coming out shortly. And as soon as they're out, we'll let everybody know. All right, that wraps it up for us today. Get out there and work on something. Spend some time turning some wrenches. And if you need some wrenches, make sure you check out Cornwell. They got all kinds of stuff to make your life easier in the shop.